Hey, this is Brian Jenkins from RunSignup, and you're on our Marketing 101 for Challenges webinar. I have Bob Fickle with me. You want to say hello, Bob?
Hello, Bob.
Great job, Bob.
Thank you.
Can we get a audio check just to make sure that everybody can hear us okay? If you could type in the question box just to confirm that everybody can hear us okay. We've got a few popping in here. We're good? Great. Okay, so just as a reminder, if you haven't been to our webinars, we kind of have a format where we'll go through a presentation, hopefully teach you one or two things that maybe you hadn't thought about. For some people, there may be lots of things they hadn't thought about. If you have questions, go ahead and put them into the questions box, and we may answer a few of them during the presentation. It won't be me because I'll be talking. I'm just not that good at talking and answering questions at the same time, but there'll be other people monitoring it. And at the end, we'll go through any questions that we think that might be helpful to a group to try to share maybe some additional information that I omitted during the presentation. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to walk through the presentation today. Oh, there we go. So the first thing is how much, when you're thinking about marketing a challenge, how different are they from virtual races? In some ways, they're very similar, and in other ways, they are different. Depending on how you're organizing your challenge, and we'll talk about that a little bit, you could have a competitive challenge, which would line up quite nicely with a race. If your race in the past was not really a race, it was more of a happening, like a walk where there was no timing, a challenge overlays over that audience pretty well. So, you want to think about that when you're putting together your challenges. Like, we're going to talk about that here in a second, is, what is your audience? So I struggled with trying to help clients because I wasn't doing it myself. I had a lot of experience with races and even with virtual races, and virtual challenges were not something I was familiar with. So I decided, hey, we need to do a challenge so that we can use the technology, so we can provide feedback and real-time information. And I also wanted to make sure that I did something maybe different than what our clients had done, which most of our clients had done some sort of, run across your state, which checks a lot of boxes. It's got extended engagement. It's got regionality. Typically, they're supporting nonprofits. So all the things that we've typically seen in the past that has worked well. I went with Activity for Good, which this is a little bit different. So just as a reminder, if you didn't see the first webinar, the concept is that for 30 days, you're signing up for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes per day of activity. And we're supporting Feeding America as a nonprofit. And the big differentiator that I'm trying to put out there is that it's minutes, not necessarily miles or crossing a state per se. And we're really trying to get people to be active in whatever way they choose. One of the things that I found in participating in a challenge is after about 2.5 or 3 weeks, it does get a little old, like doing the same activity and over again. Because if you sign up for a run walk, you got to run or walk in order to participate in the challenge. Whereas this is, if you want to go for a hike, that's fine. You want to go for a ride, that's fine. You want to go paddleboarding, that's fine. Whatever you're doing to get moving is great. So defining your audience, I'm going to use the Activity for Good and what I've learned through defining an audience. So when I was building out my branding, I made a decision that I was going to focus on pretty much exclusively on women. It's not that men can't sign up. It's just that the swag that is designed, that the actual tank top that I'm ordering is a women's cut. So that was because I needed to find a way to, slice up my demographics in some shape or fashion, because this is a national audience potentially that I could advertise to, and I felt like I needed to do something to try to segment it some to make it a little bit easier to market. So you want to start with defining your audience. Is that why would people want to join any challenge, and why would people want to join your specific challenge? And what groups of people have motivations for picking an event? So you're really trying to, ask these questions to yourself. You may want to write them down. You may want to ask other people, especially if you have other people that you're working with that fit your demographic. Ask them some questions about it. Have they done a challenge? What did they like about it? What did they not like about it? If they were to do another challenge, what would they be looking for? Asking those questions to help make sure that you're on the right path. So the interesting thing that we're learning about challenges in this particular time, I'm not sure how this is going to work a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, is there's just a lot of things that in normal everyday life that has been limited or changed. So Johanna did a great kind of matrix here that helps us understand. So right at the middle, she put share and experience. And then on the outside, we've got, people may want to do a challenge for their health, for accountability, for gym replacement, for a cause, swag, community, goals and achievement. Like, these are all reasons. And you may want to write down these types of reasons as why people want to join your challenge, specifically to, say, hey, what are we doing differently, or what is our angle on this? So building out a marketing plan, if you haven't done any training on marketing, if you're more of like a logistics or operation person, marketing can be a checklist. You can outsource the creative pieces of it, because the truth about marketing is that there's a lot of tasks and consistencies that need to be done, almost as important as copy and creative, which sometimes intimidates people. There's people that can help you with creative. There's people that can help you with copy, but like, if it never gets done, or if it never consistently gets out to people, you're not going to be successful. So if you are that logistics person, know that you do provide value in marketing. Like, it actually does have to get done. One of the things that we are going to be providing to you as a follow-up after this presentation is a checklist, so that hopefully that this will provide you with a little bit of structure or framework to help you make sure that you're on track when you're building out your marketing plan. One of the most important things about marketing is, making sure that you're monitoring it, reporting it, and then adjusting it. So where I'm at in the process with Activity for Good right now is I'm in the report/adjust phase. So I've figured out some creative that's worked. I figured out some copy that works, but I had too small of an audience. So I've been able to broaden my audience this past weekend and actually seen better results so far. And then the part that I'm actively working on is trying to improve my clicks to conversions. So all these people are coming to my website, but they're not converting. So I've made some changes on that to try to see if I can optimize, getting clicks to conversions. And I'm going to keep doing that, for the next 3 weeks, hopefully. So preparation, this is one of the pet peeves of RunSignup is, and it's like fail to prepare. What is it, Bob? What's the saying? It's prepare to fail. What's that Boy Scout saying? Do you remember?
Like aim, ready, fire.
Well, anyways, so with what we really want from you guys is, this is like the simplest thing, is that if you put a challenge out, please register yourself and then log some activities on your challenge before you send it out to your public. Like, if you do it and you think it looks okay, ask a friend. And because you can delete these participants, you can delete the people out of the challenge result set, but not testing and then coming to us in a panic when the challenge is happening, that's not great, because you can't provide necessarily great support after something's already live sometimes. So, go through that process. It's tedious, it's not fun, but it's important to make sure that your customers are getting the experience that you're advertising and that you intended to give. We went over this a little bit last time, but make sure that you have a website. RunSignup can help you with hosting a website. You can take your domain that you own and map that to RunSignup, so you've got a full website. And then collection of graphics. So another pitch for Canva. So that's canva.com. There's actually some other sites out there that do similar things. You don't have to be a graphic artist to have decent looking graphics. Everything you see on activityforgood.com, excluding the video that Andrew Sigbert made, was made by me. I am not a graphic artist. I would call myself an expert copy paster. So I just kind of find stuff I like. I pick some colors. I copy paste some things, and then I move on. This stuff is not like rocket science. Like, getting truly elite, great looking websites is rocket science. but like what we're trying to do is something that's like good enough. So, so the next one is marketing budget. I actually went back and Johanna shared some of our previous recommendations for marketing. I am significantly upping what I would recommend from a marketing budget standpoint. If you're a nonprofit or even a for-profit, I would recommend that, 10 to 15% of gross sales are earmarked for marketing. I may be even underestimating that. For a $40 entry right now, it may cost, $10 to acquire that customer. But our referrals are telling us that, if you acquire a customer for $10 and they refer two friends, well, that lowers your acquisition costs pretty significantly. So you need to make sure that additional sales, such as like additional swag they could buy or donations, are considered in that cost for marketing. So not to say that those things have to go to it, but it helps you maybe swallow a little bit more of a marketing cost than what you're used to. So some of the other things that you would want to, put into a budget is, how much does your domain cost? Canva, do you need G Suite, which is your email, and things like that? Do you need to hire any consultants to help make, graphics? I hope not, because, again, we talked about Canva and stuff like that. So what type of swag are you including in your challenge? Getting a budget for that. Donations. So the way that you structure donations can have a large impact on the outcome from the donation standpoint. One of the things that we did with Activity for Good is we've tried to make it easy for people to just check and add $5 to their checkout amount. That I would recommend more for-profit type events. With nonprofits, you may want to have donation levels set up that correlate with the theme of your event, and then people can make those additional contributions, because again, that's how nonprofits, without sponsors, need to generate that additional revenue. And then finally, we are going to release a budget at the end of this, which is going to outline, revenue and expenses and things like that, so that you guys can see kind of a breakdown of what, actual revenue, expenses look like. So first touch. So how do you reach potential participants? So we're going to start with kind of some of the easier things and then, progress to a little bit harder items. So the first thing is that if you have an email list, you can use the RunSignup email platform or whatever email platform you prefer and send an email out. One of the things that I would recommend is that if you have a fairly large email list, you can use the CRM inside of RunSignup to build out lists. So for example, let's say I had 50,000 email addresses, which I don't, but let's just say I did. I may want to filter to my target demographics. I might expand it a little bit. So my target demographic for Activity for Good is women over the age of 34. So that have an interest in health and wellness, like specifically, like if you're talking about that. But I would want to, maybe look at my email list, because, my website and all my marketing is kind of female focused. So maybe, sending that email out to my mail list may have a problem. They may unsubscribe from this email because they don't like it. So that's something to think about. One other thing that I would say about email marketing that I would love personally to be able to do is one of the other things you can do in our CRM, if you're currently a RunSignup customer, is that you can actually filter by a variety of different statuses. So not just, age and gender and things like that. You can also do it by location. You can also do it by analytics. So like, where did the registrants come from? One of the other ones that I'd love to be able to do, I just don't have the data yet, is to be able to send a very targeted email to participants who have referred one or more people to any of my events. And I'd want to send them a very different message and a hyper aggressive marketing campaign specifically to that group of people, because I know if I give them 30% off, that if they typically refer one person and I call them out and say you're a special customer to our organization because not only do you come, but you bring your friends, I would love to press on that a little bit harder. And I would highly recommend that people actually do a segmented email campaign to your people that actually bring their friends. And that would refer to teams as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So the other piece that we would highly recommend from email marketing, we make it very easy when you configure your the setup of your event is to turn on incomplete registration emails. So incomplete registration emails are cart abandonment or things like that, which is that the idea is they started registering but they didn't finish. So we'll automatically send an email to that person at the date that you choose. So is it 1 day, is it 2 days, is it 3 days after they started registering, and try to re-engage them. One other best practice with incomplete registration emails is to set the day before your challenge starts is to have incomplete registrations turned on for that date. And that will then send one final email to those incomplete registrations. And you might want to customize that email that says challenge starts tomorrow to try to, get them to join your challenge. So one of the things that people rarely ask us about is, how does, RunSignup rank on Google? And the answer is like really, really well. But it is important when you're launching something new is, start Googling your challenge name to make sure that when someone searches for it, they're finding your website and your RunSignup page. Because if you use a super common name, you may actually not be the number one rank. So that is something to think about when you're considering building out your challenges. Is that name unique? So that if someone were to search for it, they would find it. Because Google does do some relevancy in terms of location. So like the New Jersey challenge, if you're in New Jersey, it's probably going to rank higher there. Whereas if you're in California, I'm not exactly sure how that would work. So there are some considerations you want to make sure that you're checking that, and then two, make sure you search for yourself a couple times to make sure it's ranking well. The next one, this one I thought about taking out, but I actually have seen traffic from this, is part of our business model is a distribution model. So we have tons of people that use the RunSignup calendar essentially as content on their website. So if you go to runningintheusa.com, what you'll find is there's a whole lot of events there. And some of them are linked directly to RunSignup, and those are, events that are using our platform. And so that is a way for us to help drive traffic and sales. And it appears like people are still using these websites to find events. I was concerned about virtual events, but I actually have a buddy of mine that was doing an event, and I actually saw in the source of his registrations, he got 2 registrations from Running in the USA. So I think people are still actively searching for things to do, and your challenge could be something that they like to do. One other thing that I would highly recommend is if you have the ability to, especially if you're doing a geographic specific challenge, so like I live in Richmond, Virginia, let's say I was doing a Richmond challenge, is try to get your event on as many calendars as possible locally. So we have this concept in Richmond called Richmond Family Magazine, which has lots of things to do. So I want to make sure, for example, my event was listed there and a variety of other places. So don't just think about running, think about things to do and what websites people might visit. And because most of the time you can list events there for free, or you can even get paid listings for typically very small fees. And then finally is, make sure that if you have any clubs that you guys have worked with or any groups of any kind, reach out to them about, offering them discounts or letting them know about, hey, we're not doing our typical nonprofit run, wide, ride, walk, whatever. And we're doing this. Would you be open to supporting and promoting it? And a lot of people would be interested in that. So Facebook organic reach. So what organic reach means is people who are like your page, essentially. Or if someone likes your page and then they're going to share your content, that would kind of fall under that whole concept of organic reach as well. So if you have a lot of people that like your Facebook page, obviously posting that you're doing a challenge and when it's going to start, and even soliciting feedback, like you can do some really fun stuff like showing people different swag options that you're offering to start building up that drumbeat of when registration is going to open, because you're making it a participation process. If you don't have a Facebook page, like this is all brand new to you, make sure you set up your Facebook page weeks before you want to get started. I got stuck because I created a Facebook page too fast. I got stuck in Facebook purgatory for 72 hours. So Facebook does not like when you do stuff quickly. They want you to have an established presence. So that's probably not an issue for most people, but it is something I want to remind people. The other thing is that make sure you go to business.facebook.com and set up a Facebook business account. This will give you access to better tools to be able to do more targeted and sophisticated marketing. Whereas generally speaking, if you're just kind of creating ads and boosting them, which a lot of customers do, there's nothing wrong with that if you have a lot of organic reach already. But if you don't, which I didn't, I'm not able to do that. So I have to go out and build my own audience. And that's where, Facebook Business Manager comes into play. The other thing is that under promotions in RunSignup, we have a tool called source tracking. And source tracking is a fantastic way to generate a link. You could call it, Facebook traffic, or you could call it, Facebook organic reach, whatever you want to call it. And then you can generate a unique URL that takes people either to the sign up page or to your general page. And then you can embed that into your post. So you post, hey, registration's open. That will actually track how many clicks, signups, and transaction dollars that you've received from that particular link. It is not perfect, because if someone, sees the post and then goes and Googles your race, stuff like that, there's certainly things, if they use a different, machine altogether to register, you're not going to get a perfect thing. But with traffic, it is super helpful to understand, like, oh, that link actually got clicked on and people actually came to my website. So I'm using that a ton. What will happen is that will then show up in your RunSignup dashboard. And in your dashboard with all those beautiful graphs and things like that, there's a section labeled custom, and then you can click on that and you can then, measure and understand where your traffic's coming from. And then finally, one of the most important things you can do with Facebook is build a Facebook group. And with a Facebook group, you can invite people to join that group, and then that's a place for people to be able to post pictures, share stories, and encourage each other. One of the things to potentially add on here, I have set up a Facebook event. I have some customers that have encouraged me to potentially advertise my Facebook event. And so I'm going to look into doing that as my next part of the experiment is hey, I've tried doing Facebook Live campaigns, I've tried doing video campaigns, and now I'm going to try doing a Facebook event campaign. So this rolls right into Facebook ads. There's a lot of different ways to advertise on Facebook. Like I'm still kind of exploring through all the different ways to advertise. The first thing that you can do is, if you do have that large list of people to start with, I still would recommend potentially using our CRM to filter that to your core demographics if you believe you do have core demographics. And then you can load that list. We actually can help you generate a Facebook custom audience list into Facebook, so you can target a specific group of people. One other concept is, so let's say that was 10,000 people. I can then say, hey, take that 10,000 people and, look at 1% lookalike to that audience. And so Facebook will then analyze your database and say, we're going to find people within 1% of this audience. And it helps expand your reach with people who are likely to be similar to the people who have purchased from you already. So when you're doing this, there's lots of little things you can do right, and there's lots of little things you can do wrong. One of the things that is important is to do A/B testing. So A/B testing would be, one set of creative and one set of copy. So try different things. What I found is that adding emojis and kind of almost bulleting using emojis in my my copy really helped. My creative, I was able to dial in relatively quickly. I was able to figure out which piece of creative was getting the most clicks, and then I've kind of used that plus some new copy, and now I'm getting a good click-through rate and a good click cost because I kind of combined my best copy and my best creative. And it's like, well, how do you do that? You need to do A/B testing. Facebook makes it super easy. It actually asks you when you're creating a campaign, do you want to do an A/B test, so you can understand which ones are performing well. Plus, there's tons of AI built behind Facebook now. So if you type in a bunch of different things, Facebook will automatically, over the course of a couple of days, start learning. So you also need to understand that you can start with small amounts of money, like $3, $4, $5 a day, and let that run for a couple of days, understanding that may not be like the optimal use of that money, because when you're doing something new, it's not like everything right out of the gate. So have an understanding that like as long as you're not, spending $150, unless you're comfortable doing that, like right out of the gate, you should be able to dial it in. Like I have started running a campaign, and within an hour, I realized there was something wrong with it. Like my costs versus value that I was getting in terms of like I was measuring in clicks was way off. It was costing me like $1 a click, and the campaign right before that was like 30 cents to 20 cents, somewhere in that range. And so there was something wrong with that campaign. I just stopped it after an hour because it was not working correctly. So, making sure that you're measuring and paying attention to this stuff, you should be able to get something, dialed in if you have the right audience, like meaning if you're advertising the right things to the right group of people. Finally is the Facebook Pixel. So the Facebook Pixel allows you to understand if you're actually driving traffic and conversions from your ad campaign. So inside of Business Manager, you can get your Pixel ID, which is a number that you plug into RunSignup, and it connects Facebook and RunSignup together, so we're talking to each other. This allows you, and we'll talk about this in the next webinar, where we're going to talk a little bit about more advanced marketing techniques, such as excluding conversions and remarketing techniques and things like that. But that allows you to do that, but it also, at a minimum, allows you to understand what campaigns are actually driving revenue for your organization. So I am doing some Google display ads. In our industry, Google display ads are not super common. My experience with Google display ads is I fully understand why people are not buying ads with Google. It's not an intuitive platform. It's easy to waste money. It makes you feel stupid. Their platform has so many incredible tools, and it takes a lot of time and patience in order to be able to, get semi-confident on it. With all that said, I do think it is valuable to advertise on Google with small amounts of money. And at a minimum, if you are able to, because this is not the easiest thing to do, is if you're able to just advertise to people who have visited your website using Google, I think that is an extremely effective use of money, because Google is very cheap. And if you say, hey, I only want to advertise to people who have visited my website in the last 30 days or 90 days, things like that, it, from a credibility standpoint, just think about you as a potential customer, is that you see an ad on Facebook, then you go to some other website and you see an ad for the same organization. If they end up converting on Facebook, Facebook gets credit for it. But Google is creating this this kind of authority of your brand by, like, the person is seeing you across the internet. So I think, and bluntly, I'm seeing like much lower cost per click with Google. I do not have it totally dialed in, but I do have it working, and I think it is something worth exploring, and I've shared that with a bunch of people, is that in small dollar amounts, you can still create awareness for your challenge using
Brian,
Google. Yeah.
Brian, explain what a display ad is.
Sure. So a display ad is typically like a square box that you would see. So let's say I'm reading an article about The Rock buying the XFL. I could see a square box advertisement for Activity for Good. So these are ads that are typically showing up on web browsers. But one of the interesting things that I found, because I didn't exclude this, is mobile. So these display ads are also showing up on YouTube. So if someone's watching a YouTube video, or if they're using an app, display ads will show up inside of the app. And there's Google has a ton of options now with display ads, where people can kind of swipe up to actually see ads or see expanded content about ads. And they have some incredible AI behind the scenes that are helping like optimize who should see your ads. So it's really powerful technology. It just takes a little bit of time to get your arms around it.
The other term you'll hear is remarketing or retargeting. And so the common use of this is when people come to your website, as Brian said, you want to show your display ad when they're going around the rest of the web, because it may bring them back. It's a very common online marketing technique. There are other vendors out there like Criteo, but Google, because it's all in one platform, is a nice place to do it.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with Facebook, and that is something I'm going to talk about in the next webinar. Is the idea of a customer journey, or remarketing is a kind of a simpler term, where it's like, hey, they saw your ad, they clicked on the ad, but they didn't buy. Now what happens? Okay, well, I know that you came to my website. I know you didn't buy. Should I show them different ads? So that is the general concept behind it. Yeah, so we even talked about remarketing here. We're going to dig into this more in the next advanced marketing webinar. I'm going to show the actual pixel and some of the actual Facebook business manager analytics that we have. So expand your funnel and grow your challenge. So this part is the part that I think that many of our customers can achieve like really good results. But sometimes it is like catching lightning in a bottle. So you need to make sure that your content, your incentives, your communication are emphasizing social connections, because many people are distant from especially imagine you live somewhere where your family isn't close by, and so now you're not traveling to see them and things like that. We're trying to use these events, even if they're virtual events, to help reinforce social connections. So we're going to talk about some of the different marketing strategies that you can use to increase social connection. So referral rewards are doing extremely well. So we are seeing 23% of registrations in May and 28% of registration dollars coming from referrals. That's big. So if you look at 2019, February, March, April, and May, these numbers are significant. So if you're not doing referral rewards, please, I will send you my PayPal link, send me $10, and I will rightfully give it away, because you're just wasting money. Many people see referrals as like, oh, well, I have to give people money. It's like, no, you can set thresholds. So if someone truly does bring 5 registrations to your event, you should happily give them money, or give them a portion of their entry fee back, or give them swag, whatever you want to do, because it is a really, really good return on investment. So what we're doing with referral rewards is we're trying to incentivize your participants to refer their friends and family. For the most part, this is people, when they finish registering, the screen grays out and we ask them, do they want to share? So they can share via Facebook, they can share via Twitter, they can share via email. Those are the primary ways. And we're trying to get them to share their unique link with friends and family, and trying to get those people to register so they can get credit for it, so they can earn, potentially money back, or this swag, or you could even do, Johanna has an example in here where you get like a custom printed map of the course you ran. So like a really, really nice incentive. And it sounds like refer 20 friends is ridiculous. I have seen an event that their top 50 referrals from, people, and this is a hard word to say, referrers, their top 50 was over 50 registrations. So meaning the 51st person had well over 20 referrals. And so I'm not saying that's happening all the time, but it is possible. So, and those people, if they're driving 50 registrations at $50, that's huge revenue from one individual person. So some of the best practices for referrals, it is easy to overcomplicate this. So make sure that you're keeping the idea and your communication straightforward. So, it is somewhat fun and targeting to try to, come up with custom stuff. But the simplest option that you have is if you refer blank number of people, you get a refund. And you can define that. We can help you with that, but the higher your entry fee is, the more people they might need to refer, but you can also set, lower barriers. So if you refer 3 friends, I'll give you $15 back. If you refer 6 friends, I'll give you another 15. And if you refer 9, I'll give you the final 15, let's say for a $45 entry. Again, I can't emphasize enough, make sure that it's simple and make sure that it's something that you continue to communicate to your participants throughout the registration process. One of the other things is that you can turn on one of our automated emails called registration follow-up emails. So under email marketing, there's an automated email, and it's called registration follow-up. And what it allows you to do is to send an email, 1, 2, 3 days after someone registers, thank them for participating, in your challenge, for signing up, and then remind them about the referrals so that they can then share their URL or forward that email onto their friends and say, hey, would you guys join me? That works reasonably well. I see pretty decent open rates from that. Make sure that you're sharing this on your Facebook page. Make sure you're sharing it on your Facebook group as that starts to build up. And if you're doing, a t-shirt or some sort of special like sweatshirt giveaway, what we find is about over 70% of the people who refer someone to your event are female. So make sure that you've got, sizes or designs that would be interesting to a female. And then the final thing is that, make sure that if you're offering a physical good, that it's exclusive. Right now, I'm generally encouraging people to use cash because it's so easy, and RunSignup automates putting the money back on the credit card. So you don't have to do anything. We will manage that for you. So groups and teams, this one has fallen off a little bit in terms of like number of people who are asking us about this. If your event traditionally has had teams, don't discount that teams need to stop just because you're doing a challenge or things have changed this year. Things have changed, but teams are still an extremely effective way to market. So you can see here, 30% of participants join teams when they are available. So that is on par with referrals. Does that mean that those people would or would not have registered where you can get that direct correlation with referrals? I don't know. I would say that, it would be a healthy assumption that say half those people or more probably only signed up because, there's some sort of team component in recruitment going on. But that's just a guess. I mean, I do think that teams are still very valuable in your process. The other thing that's kind of neat about teams is that you can do different things with them. So you can say, hey, teams are just for fun. And, again, that's just a way for people to kind of interact with each other. You can, make them competitive. So you can say, hey, if you're doing a challenge, but you don't want to do the whole 500-mile challenge, you could join a team, and then each person just kind of does as much as they can until they get to the 500-mile goal. It also can be part of your fundraising strategy. So if you're fundraising, teams are very popular with fundraising. So make sure that you're still keeping that component in your event. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is that you can offer discounts and things like that. So in this example, we're saying, hey, regular registration is $39 and you get a $5 discount for members with 5 or more team members. So it would be $34 at that point. And one of the neat things that RunSignup provides for you is that we can automatically refund your participants on their credit card. So if they hit a threshold, so if they get to 5 people or 10 people, whatever your threshold is, we can automatically refund those participants for hitting that team threshold. So it works very similarly to referrals. It's just everybody on the team kind of wins versus one person. You also can do, some other options where you could say, hey, if you get 50 or more people on your team, you get some specialized gift or something like that. So I generally recommend that you offer, if you're going to do teams with some sort of size competition, is just make a threshold, and every team that gets above that threshold gets the gift. So the largest team competitions sound really attractive, but if one team kind of, stacks the box with, 150 people, and the next biggest team is 20 people, your team competition is over. So you want to make sure that, the team with 15 people still has the incentive to try to get to 25. So this is definitely one I want to remind people about because it's still tried and true. So another marketing technique is your cause. many people come to your event because a friend or a family member is, been part of this cause in some shape or fashion. And so that shouldn't be something that you hide. That should be something that you talk about openly. Make sure that you're explaining to people how COVID is impacting your organization, because, no one really knows your situation better than you do. And so, I'm on the board of CASA. One of the big issues that we have at CASA right now is that the court systems were shut down for 50 days. So we didn't see cases. Now we're seeing cases unfurl, super quickly. And the other big issue that we're having is that typically teachers and counselors let CASA know about, or let let parts of the system know that need to about issues at home. And that system right now is on hold. So that's how COVID is impacting CASA. And so we need to do a good job communicating that to help people understand that this year is going to be a record year for cases, which is not a good thing for CASA. And we need your support. So every single nonprofit right now has a similar situation and story. They just need to make sure that they're communicating that clearly, so that people can understand, like, hey, what's going on right now with this cause that I feel attached to. So if you are a for-profit organization on this call working with your nonprofit, make sure you have a conversation with your nonprofit to get that story, so you can tell people about the organization you're supporting and why you're supporting them and how COVID is impacting them. It also can be helpful for your nonprofit to do some marketing for your challenge, because maybe a lot of their events are suspended, and this basically no risk fundraiser for them can be a great way to generate revenue without taking on any risk or work on their part. And then finally, make sure that if you feel confident about it, and you need to make sure you've had a good discussion with your committee, if you have a committee, about fundraising. So fundraising is to me a little bit of a touchy subject right now. Donations, I think, are absolutely appropriate, and asking people if they want to donate. Donations are actually very steady at RunSignup right now, and in some ways I think they're actually up, relatively speaking. So I feel very good about making sure you have donations turned on. It's just with fundraising, I've had privately several nonprofits share with me that they've had some pushback on asks on fundraising. So if you've already had that, you kind of know, like, hey, maybe we won't do that. We'll just focus on donations. So, and if you haven't experienced that, then move forward with fundraising, and we support Facebook fundraising as well. So many participants will only sign up for challenges that have, cool swag. They want a medal or things like that. So if you underestimate on that swag is not a motivator, you're probably wrong. Swag is extremely important. Many of you have a lot of experience with it. The things to know is, make sure that you're really pushing your creativity on this, because, if it's something that looks good and looks interesting, that's going to drive more interest in your event. And also, if you're going to spend money on creative, spend money on creative that gives you a great looking image that you can put on your website, that you can put out socially, and that you can advertise displaying your swag. So RunSignup offers several different ways to sell or collect people's preferences on the swag that they're getting. So you can use our giveaway, which would typically be something that's included in registration. Registration add-ons is something that's typically not included in registration, so they could buy it extra. Or the store, which is like, hey, I don't even have to register per se, and I could buy that item. And then finally, you can use premium swag. So the idea behind that is you get, let's say you get a t-shirt or a tank top and a medal with your entry, but you could earn a hoodie if you refer 15 people or something like that. So I've mentioned this in a couple different of the slides, is automated emails. So inside of the RunSignup system, we have our email marketing platform, and then we have automated emails. So from a marketing standpoint, I mentioned this earlier, we really want to make sure that incomplete registrations are turned on at a minimum. Race joy that may or may not make sense. Price increases. So price increases in general, this is a question that I get asked a lot. There's not many challenges doing price increases. It's just really hard to drive urgency. And to do a price increase. I think it would be interesting to potentially do a price increase. And I think people are kind of doing price increases by, discounting registration early using coupon codes and then letting those codes expire. So that effectively works like a price increase. But the other important thing to think about is, with price increases is that you can do swag dates. So if you don't sign up by X date, this swag you won't get until this date. That is going to be a big deal for turkey trots or November challenges. Like, I have a feeling that people that sign up for, turkey trots or turkey trot challenges are going to be expecting their swag by Thanksgiving. So you may have to do a register by date in order to guarantee your item by Thanksgiving. So that is a way to kind of push a price increase, is to say, hey, make sure you register by this date. Registration follow-up emails. This is something that I mentioned earlier. This is a way for you to send some sort of message, either, educating people about the challenge itself, talking to them about referrals, and or your charity partners. You could potentially combine all those, or you could kind of make, 2 or 3 separate emails, but I wouldn't recommend more than that. So this is the kind of the slide on registration follow-up emails. You can customize these if you don't like the copy that's in there. And one of the other things is that you can use replacement tags, and replacement tags allow you to put in, custom content like, bib number or something like that, or here's your referral URL inside of the follow-up email. And make sure that you don't send too many of these emails. 3 is the absolute max for registration follow-up emails. So this is an example of the automated drip campaigns. So it will automatically plug in that it says, first name, but you can kind of customize this content, and you can see at the bottom here where it says registration referral code link. That is the link that is unique to that registrant for this campaign. And you could do the same thing for fundraising to remind people about their fundraising campaign link. So right now, where are we at with activities for goods marketing? So we're doing paid ads with Facebook. We're doing some Google ads using display ads. We're doing remarketing, so meaning people who have gone to the Activity for Good website but have not purchased. We're doing remarketing on that. I'm offering referral rewards. I have a charity partner, which is Feeding America, and then I have swag, and you can see an image of the swag. Fun little side story on swag. If you are doing face buffs, you probably should not have pictures of people with face buffs. Google will flag your ad and will take it down, or not even let you run. So that's why you'll see it kind of looks like there's someone's face behind that, is because Google does not want any sort of face covering ads right now. So that was an interesting side lesson. So that is the full presentation. So Bob, do we have lots of questions?
Yeah, a couple of different things to talk about. So, in your Activity for Good project that you're trying out, can you talk just a little bit about how you're starting from zero, where a lot of the people that are looking at our challenge platform are actually coming with a community of supporters or something like that, and kind of what difference that can make?
Yeah, so if you already have a community, I think the biggest thing that you could do that I couldn't do is I was kind of making some guesses and assumptions. I did ask for feedback from people in my target demographic about, Activity for Good, and the feedback was positive. So I think one of the things you can do if you have a community is actually, do some surveying of what people might be interested in. You could show off some different, creative ideas. You could show off some different swag ideas, so that you could really make sure that you're on the right track. You are quote unquote showing your hand a little bit then, but I think it gives you so much more confidence if you're asking for your target customers' feedback on something that you're doing. So that would be something I see as like a big advantage over what I'm doing, because I didn't have that type of feedback.
Yeah, and I just want to throw in a couple of other comments here. So a lot of the people that are starting to use our challenge platform are nonprofits, and they already have a community of supporters that care about them and want to see that nonprofit's mission be successful. And we're seeing the successful nonprofits that are using our challenge platform are really engaging their existing supporters and and asking them for help. Whether it's the idea that they're coming up with or becoming referrers and things like that. And, Brian, I think you talked, really well about, now might not be the right time to ask people to do fundraising, but it is the right time to ask them to engage and help your community. And the way to do that, I think, is through challenges and kind of becoming like a referrer or a team captain or something like that, where basically you're getting leverage out of your most committed supporters, and it's a way of really engaging them. Next week, Allison is going to be doing a webinar talking about that type of strategy in terms of challenges for nonprofits. But I think it's an interesting kind of twist on, kind of what's happening today and how to kind of leverage the challenge platform.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like there's more than one way for someone to support that, and so that could be part of your messaging. Like, how can you help us? You could have several different, ways that you could help us, like being a team captain and recruiting your friends.
Could you speak on what kinds of prizes you have seen work well for teams, for largest team or top fundraising? Is it one gift for the whole team or prizes for each individual on the team?
Yeah, so I think because of the situation we're in, you should have a prize for each person for, like a team threshold. I think team threshold goals, it really depends on the size of your event, but they should be a pretty large number. And I think there's lots of different things you can do with prizes in terms of like that. I personally love socks. They're relatively inexpensive, and they're great gifts for people. But when you're working with your, swag company, I would ask them for ideas, because this type of stuff can change each year and seasonally. Like, my wife would love if you did a challenge in October. If you want to get her registration, like put pumpkin spice something, swag, she would sign up for it. So I think that some of the seasonality stuff can work really well too.
Could you explain, you kind of went over it, but I think it's useful to kind of expand it a little bit. The cost per acquisition, you were talking about spending $10 but you're really not spending $10 to get one customer, you're getting it to get maybe two or something like that. Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, so the idea is that when you have someone coming into the concept called your funnel, so there's these costs that are associated with putting someone into a marketing funnel. And so, Facebook and Google do a pretty good job of helping you understand what those costs are. So, like, how much money did you spend on advertising, and then what is the outcome of the advertising? Oh, it's a purchase, and that purchase cost you $10. So then what happens is when that person completes the transaction, let's say it's a $50 challenge, where you've got $40 left over, and you've got $10 in costs just for that, just in marketing costs. Obviously, you've got other costs with it. Well, that marketing cost is going to get shaved down some if they finish registering. And I've seen this happen in Activity for Good. So I had someone register. She shared socially, and within an hour, I could see through referrals that a friend of hers had registered. So So now, in my mind, and other people's may be different, my $10 acquisition cost is now 5. Now, it may go back up, which is a little counterintuitive. If this person refers, more people, I may end up having to give her a partial or full refund if she refers enough people. But again, I kind of know what that cost is, right? So that's how bringing in one participant could lead to 2 more, but actually slice that cost that you put towards the initial participant. It'll be spread across multiple participants.
Also, the other angle at that is for nonprofits. You may get them to sign up for your event, but you also might be getting donations from that person today, and you might get future donations and engagement from that participant becoming a true supporter of your organization. Do you have any swag vendors that you recommend?
Yeah, so I'll make sure that we include our list. So I'm a little bit more hesitant with swag vendors because everybody's kind of touchy about who they work with. But what we have put together is a list of companies that not only can provide you with the swag, but also can help you with fulfillment, meaning that one of the things we haven't talked a lot about, we're going to talk about this in the final webinar, is the whole logistics, customer service fulfillment side, is that the company I chose personally was Gilman Surge. And Gilman Surge is making it so that I never touch any of the inventory, and it's going to go directly to the participants. And so, Johanna, we can put in the follow-up email a link to our fulfillment companies that we've spoken with, who can help you not only, procure the swag, but actually get it shipped directly to the participant. So we can definitely include that in our follow-up email.
Yeah, and like you say, we're going to have a webinar that goes into detail on that. And if you have an event and you typically get t-shirts from a local vendor, a lot of these local vendors are doing the shipping for you now. They've opened up that operation and that capability. And so it's very easy for you to share your data with them. I think those were the most of the topics, Sir Brian.
Well, great. Yeah. So I'm not sure the date on the next one. So we're going to do an advanced marketing next time. So if you want to be prepared for that one, make sure that you've got a Facebook business account set up. You've at least poked around in the ad platform. I'm not saying you have to go into Google Ads. I'll see where I'm at that point with it. It's definitely working, but it may not be great for a webinar. It may be like watching paint dry and watching me try to navigate it. But we will go pretty deep into what campaigns that I did, how they performed, which ones I turned off and why, and really try to help you guys understand what I did. I'm not saying what I did is right or wrong, but it's just kind of sharing information.
Great. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll send a follow-up email out shortly. See ya.
Bye.